Hi, I'm Karl Konrad. I founded Australian Immigration Law Services 23 years ago now. Over these many years, our team has helped thousands upon thousands get their visas to live, work and study in Australia. On this channel, we post videos on visas and requirements, how to apply and keep you up to date with the latest immigration news. Australia forecasts and plans its migration program yearly, commencing in July. As such, it is almost certain that we see many changes about this time. Today I'll share with you Australian Capital Territory's latest requirements. To be eligible for the State 190 visa or the Regional 491 visa, you'll need to meet the Immigration Department's requirements as well as be nominated by a state. To be nominated by a state, you'll need to fulfill the state's nomination requirements. Each state sets its own nomination requirements independently based upon the needs of that particular state. The occupations that are eligible for the 190 visa and 491 visa are also different for each state. The Immigration Department's requirements include being under the age of 45, scoring at least 65 points on the points test, having a valid skills assessment and competent level of English. To learn more about the Immigration Department's requirements, watch our videos linked in the description below. The list of the ACT's eligible occupations is called the ACT Critical Skills List. The ACT has a history of changing this list regularly, so you must keep checking their website to see if it's been updated. Before I continue to talk about the critical skills list, it is vital that you know that with the ACT, depending upon which stream you're applying under, you do not have to have an occupation on the list to be eligible, but it will definitely help if you are considering the extra points allocated under the Canberra Matrix. Back to the list. Each occupation group has a limited number of places available each month, and these quotas can vary when the new lists are released. Currently, many IT occupations have higher quotas than doctors and nurses, which is sort of peculiar given the pandemic period we're in now. Certain occupations may also be marked as a 491 visa only, which means that you will not be able to apply for the 19 visa under that occupation. If you want to know more about the differences between the 190 visa and the 491 visa, watch our videos comparing these skilled visas. You'll find a link in the description below, and this goes for any other links I mentioned throughout this video. There are some requirements that are the same for all candidates applying to the ACT. If you're applying for the 491 visa, you must be resident in Canberra for the last 3 months and continue to live in Canberra until you receive an invitation to apply for the 190 or 491 visa. If applying for the 190 visa, this is 6 months. Resident is taken to mean living and settled, so visiting Canberra for short periods to make up 3 or 6 months will not meet the requirement. You can live within 30-minute commute of Canberra as long as you are working in Canberra. For example, you could be staying in Queanbeyan, which of course is in New South Wales. This residency requirement is different for PhD applicants, which I'll cover later in the video. You need to demonstrate through English test results that you have proficient or superior English levels. This is above the Immigration Department's minimum requirement of competent English. There are exceptions, those nominating occupations that are ANSCO skill level 3 to 5. An example of occupations that are ANSCO skill level 3 include cooks. In addition to these requirements, you need to fulfill additional requirements depending on the stream that applies to you. There are 3 streams under the ACT nomination program. You must meet one of the following. Your nominated occupation is on the latest ACT Critical Skills List. You are the primary holder of a 457 or 482 sponsored visa by an ACT employer. It does not matter whether your nominated occupation is on the ACT Critical Skills List. You are a majority owner of an eligible registered business located in the ACT. It does not matter whether your nominated occupation is on the ACT Critical Skills List. There is an additional pathway for international students who completed a PhD at an ACT university. PhD graduates do not have to have an occupation on the Critical Skills List and enjoy having far less requirements to meet and quick application process. For Stream 2 and 3 and for PhD applicants, you do not have to have a nominated occupation on the ACT Critical Skills List, but will need to have a nominated occupation on the Immigration Department's Consolidated 190 or 491 Visa Occupation List. Let's move on to the requirements for each of these streams. If you're applying under Stream 1, you have an occupation on the ACT Critical Skills List. You must not only be living in Canberra but also be working. Like the residency requirement, those applying for the 491 visa must be working for the last 3 months, and those applying for the 190 visa must be working for the last 6 months. For the 491 visa, work must be a minimum of 20 hours every week for the last 13 weeks before submitting your interest to the ACT. For the 190 visa, work must be a minimum of 35 hours per week every week for the last 26 weeks. If you work less than the required hours in a week due to a public holiday or mandatory employer shutdown, those weeks cannot count, and you'll only be eligible when you have worked the minimum required hours each week for the minimum required period. Employment must also be continuous. There must not even be a gap for 1 day during the required period of employment. If you take paid time off through annual leave, personal or maternity leave, then that time is still considered as continuous. If your employment does not offer you paid time off, unpaid days can meet the continuous employment requirement only if you have a medical certificate. Work must be paid, and internships and scholarships and volunteer positions are not eligible. You must be working in a genuine position in accordance with the Australian terms and conditions of employment, and you must provide a statutory declaration by your employer declaring that you are employed in a genuine position. Your income must not be less than the relevant award or market salary rate. The market salary rate is the salary that your occupation commands within the area you are working. This can be evidenced through job data or job advertisements. If you're working in Canberra for an interstate employer, you cannot be working online or from a home office. You may work for more than one employer or be self-employed. Your employment does not have to be permanent. If you're self-employed and not claiming Matrix points as a small business owner, there are different requirements to meet. The Canberra Matrix is a form that you must fill out when you submit your interest to the ACT. To learn more about the Canberra Matrix, watch our video. The Matrix video was also updated in July 2021. For those applying for the 491 visa, your total taxable income must be at least $520 per week in each of the last 13 weeks. For the 190 visa, this is at least $1,000 per week for the last 26 weeks. Regardless of whether it is for the 491 or 190 visa, you must prove at least 12 months of ACT business activity on your ABN when you submit your interest to the ACT. You must also sign a statutory declaration confirming your ABN, location of AC business, start date of the ACT business activities, duties and annual income. That was a lot to get through. Thankfully, Stream 2 and 3 are more straightforward. Those who are working in the ACT on an employer-sponsored 457 or 482 visa are required to be working full-time for the sponsoring employer, so there's no further requirements to meet other than previously mentioned residency, English, and the commitment to ACT criteria that all applicants share. If you are applying as a small business owner, you must be able to claim points on the Canberra Matrix under the small business owner category. The Matrix is independent of nomination requirements, so regardless of whether you're applying for the 491 or 190 visa, your business will need to have been actively trading in Canberra for at least 6 months to claim points. There are a number of other requirements for your business to meet, which you can learn all about on our Canberra Matrix video. The following business types are not eligible: subtenancy, rideshare, taxi, delivery, courier services, or an unsold business previously used to qualify for ACT nomination. You will, of course, need to meet all the requirements relating to residence, English, and the commitment to ACT as well. If you graduated from a PhD course taken at an ACT university, you can apply for the 190 visa or the 491 visa. You have a longer residence requirement to meet and must have lived in Canberra for at least 12 months at the time you're invited to apply. If you are living in another state or territory or you're overseas, you are eligible to apply if you're awarded your PhD within the last 2 years. You must first submit your expression of interest to the Immigration Department and select ACT as your preference. You must then submit your interest to the ACT through completing the Canberra Matrix. If you are selected, you will be invited to apply to the ACT. This is where you provide evidence that you meet all the nomination criteria. If your ACT application is approved, the Immigration Department will only then send you your invitation to apply for the 190 or the 491 visa. The Canberra Matrix is a form that you must fill that scores across different categories, such as how long you've lived in the ACT, or if you've studied in the ACT, if you have relatives in the ACT, if you have assets in the ACT, and more. Your matrix score is how the ACT will decide if they want to nominate you. Those on streams 1 and 3 are ranked on their matrix scores, and the top scoring applicants are selected. Those in stream 2 will be invited to apply to the ACT nomination so long as you score at least 65 points in the Canberra Matrix. PhD graduates do not have to use the matrix at all and will receive an invitation to apply within a week. The ACT nomination program can sound very daunting, and we are here to help if you need that extra guidance. You can book a consultation to speak with us over the Zoom, Skype, or the telephone. Book your appointment over at australiavisa.com, where you also find out more about us. We're on Facebook as well, so make sure you follow us there. Subscribe to get our videos every week. We're working on the latest updates across the state, so turn on that notification bell so you don't miss out. And as always, take care out there, and I'll see you next time. So bye for now.